We have 19th century law, 20th century infrastructure, 21st century climate. And those three things don't fit well together.
That would certainly make it a three-legged logjam of concerns for what is happening with the Colorado River right now. 7 states trying to figure out who will take the biggest hit and scale back how much water they pull from the Colorado system because, as most people know, that river and the reservoirs are historically and dangerously low. So what does what is happening in the southwestern part of the United States have to do with what is happening in the southern part of Idaho? Well, we're both technically in a desert, and we both use a similar system of storing and distributing water, and that system is looking to be a bit outdated. It's also put 7 states in a fight over water that really wasn't there in the first place, apparently. Sophia Bliss looked into this and learned these western states are working off water allocations which were set a century ago. So, Sophia, it appears those numbers in 1922, not the best ones to use.
That's right, Brian. I talked to Aaron Kuhn. He's a co-author of a book that in part explains the story of the Colorado River Compact. The Compact is the agreement that split the water up between the 7 western states. There were a team of engineers that were using technology that was relatively new for the time. River gauges collected data for about 20 years prior. Coincidentally, those 20 years the river gauges were in place were a very wet time period. So if the engineers only factored in the gauge data, they wouldn't be getting the full picture. Eugene LaRue was one of the engineers at the time. He looked at some of the other evidence and saw the Colorado River was subject to some long-scale droughts. When the time came, policymakers opted to not utilize LaRue's opinion. Kuhn says policymakers from the Bureau of Reclamation were focused on development and the potential upside.
They wanted to build Hoover Dam. And the more water that was in the river, the more we could divide up among the states, the more power it would produce, the bigger the benefits. So they wanted to provide a more positive, atmosphere. They were the optimists. They considered LaRue too much of a pessimist, but today, looking back, we consider him more of a realist.
Fast forward from 1922, the policies to spur growth worked. Communities in the West have grown significantly, and now it gets complicated trying to scale back some of that usage. Some people have senior water rights, others have junior water rights, but no matter how you slice up the allocations, the water was never there to begin with. It's like trying to split up a whole pie when you only have 3/4. And unfortunately, there may be even more stress on the water supply that is left.
And now what we've seen is that because of climate change, we're using more water than nature's providing. And that was okay when we were drawing the reservoirs down. And now after 25 years, those full reservoirs, like I say, are dangerously empty. And we have a crisis, and we have to figure out how to cut people back, cut farmers, cut cities back. And that's very difficult. And it's politically challenging, and it's legally challenging.
6 states agreed to an outline for cuts, but California is holding out. California has senior water rights and wants Arizona to give up more first. If the states can't agree, the federal government may step in with mandatory cuts across the board. Again, Brian, Colorado River is not in Idaho, but we collect our water in a similar way. We rely on the snow in the mountains in the winter, a slow melt in the spring, and a series of reservoirs. And the system as a whole only works when patterns continue as they have throughout history. And that's just not what we've seen for the past 20 years.
Yeah, we can kind of see that looking ahead, maybe that could happen here. Granted, we don't see as many things, people, farmers, ranchers pulling from our river system as maybe down there. Of course, California does a lot of that. But yeah, that's something we could see happening here for sure. Thanks, Sophia.